Hello, and welcome to Carrier Rep. In this episode, we talk with Mobile Posse about some research into user behavior, and we make a stop at Smart Cities Week DC for conversations with IoT company ConnecThings, as well as Current by GE. All of that after this. This is Kelly Hill, technology reporter with RCR Wireless News. I'm here today with Greg Wester, who is EVP of Marketing for Mobile Posse. How are you, Greg?
I'm doing great. How are you, Kelly?
Good. Nice to have you here. So you guys did some recent research that we're going to get into. And so I want to ask you to go ahead and give us some key takeaways from that from your perspective, and tell us a little bit about what that research was and how you guys approached it.
Sure. So Mobile Posse develops software for carriers and OEMs so that they can better remake the unlock and swipe experience so that they can better re-engage with their customers. So as part of really understanding consumers and the device, we've always done a tremendous amount of research looking at that process of unlocking the phone. So we partnered with Phoenix Marketing to kind of take raw behavioral data and analyze it in a very unique way so that we could really, for the first time in the market, look at that experience of unlocking and what someone actually sees and what they actually do at that first unlock. So I guess for me, my takeaways fall into really three buckets. The first is this myth that the smartphone is really smart. So what we actually found was when you unlock your device, the first thing that you actually find, which will either be the last app you used or your home screen, only about 20% of the time does a subscriber or a consumer actually keep what they actually find. Or to say that differently, the bounce rate of today's smartphone is 80%. If you had a website, if you had a commerce site, if you had a news portal, if you had a refrigerator that had a bounce rate of 80%, you would do two things. You would first scratch your head and ask, why is that happening? And secondly, you'd probably fire your design team and say, rebuild and re-architect this. So it's kind of a misnomer. Clearly, there's a lot of intelligence inside our devices. But when you look at the trend, and this is the other interesting data point, when you look at the trends of why we're picking up our phones these days, which are increasingly to fill idle time or kill time as opposed to being task-oriented, the modality of today's smartphone isn't ideal. So that's my first takeaway, that the smartphone could be smarter and it would be good for consumers. The second major takeaway is really the impactful relevance of what appears first. So we put some data in there looking at Facebook's trends from 2016 to 2017, where we had bought this device data and analyzed Facebook's prevalence of being first. And the only reason you can be first is if you were last. So Facebook is increasingly used to kind of fill time. You go check your bank account, check your email, then you have a few more minutes, you wind up on Facebook. There's a perpetual motion machine with any application that's used to kill time. It's used to kill time at the end of a session. And then because nothing else can change, when you open up your device, you have a chance to kill time some more. So there's a perpetual motion. And you've seen from 2016 to 2017, the increasing likelihood of Facebook to do that. The second area within this first really matters is the importance of advertising and how advertising really works better when you present content with that advertising to a consumer that is not midstream or mid-task. So we actually partnered with Taboola, one of our partners, to really analyze downstream traffic from the first screen, downstream traffic from web or social traffic. And what we found was that by presenting the content and advertising to that otherwise idle, not active consumer, the RPM downstream from this idle consumer was 3 times higher than the web and about 2.5 times higher than social traffic. So it really quantified how important, increasingly importantly, the first screen is within the mobile content and advertising space. And then that kind of leads to the third major takeaway. And I guess it's the myth that I would call that carriers cannot compete with Facebook. Facebook is obviously the poster child in the industry, and clearly carriers cannot compete with the social aspect of Facebook. But we did two things. We, one, quantified that social is a part of Facebook, but equally as a bigger part of Facebook is the thing used to kill time and simply to be informed with news and entertaining elements. So we quantified that a lot. That wasn't necessarily surprising because empirically we see that every day as you look at people flipping through the news feed to read Facebook.
Yeah.
But what was interesting was the level or the absence of a difference in how when I get a post or when people get postings or notifications that's something relevant to me, you've liked me, you've tagged me, and I see a notification and I engage with it. The level of engagement that engenders is no different from the level of engagement that Facebook engenders when I simply wake up and find Facebook on my home or as my open app. So all of those combined into my third takeaway.
Okay.
Carriers can't compete as a social network, but there's a massive opportunity, which we also quantified in the billions of dollars, for carriers to compete in the space of providing their subscribers a feed of interesting content throughout the day as they unlock their device.
Okay.
So those are the three major takeaways. The smartphone is not as smart as it will be in a few years, certainly. That first really, really matters to consumers, and that the combination of those two create a huge opportunity for carriers to really launch what I would call a downhill battle to compete in the media and advertising space, as opposed to a lot of the uphill battles you see now with going out and spending billions of dollars in content with partners. When it's your device, a carrier can implement a content solution via that device. They control it. They inform the market rollout. So it's a downhill as opposed to an uphill competitive battle.
Interesting. Another one of the points that I thought that was interesting about the research that you guys did was sort of this differentiation between gratification and personalization. Can you talk a little bit about the point that you were trying to make there with that sort of tailoring versus instant access?
Sure. Thanks for asking. So there's lots of ways to define personalization. That's not the new term in the research. I guess the new term is really more instant gratification. But if I were to really try to summarize it down into a takeaway, personalization is about the most relevant item to Greg or to Kelly. I would characterize instant gratification as the most relatable delivery of something interesting enough for Kelly or Greg. And again, it's that the difference between the premeditated, I want to go get content from wherever, versus I'm standing at a street corner and have 45 seconds to do something. And today, what we do is reach to our back pocket purse and engage in some sort of mobile device session where more than half of our mobile device sessions are less than 60 seconds. So it's literally titled to be a bit provocative. There are scads and scads of companies that are using a myriad of technologies to invent the latest personalization. And what we're really saying in this research is, wait a minute, there is a form factor in today's smartphone that can be modified. And by moving that lever, you have a much greater impact on how well you can actually engage somebody. By moving the personalization lever in today's UI UX on a smartphone, you're not really going to move for that much and how much time or how often that consumer actually engages. So away from that lever a little bit and implement some parameters that actually can enhance what we all care about in the media and content and carrier space is share of time, share of money, and a greater satisfied customer.
Interesting stuff. Any other key takeaways or tidbits or just thoughts on the opportunity here, specifically for carriers? They've been trying to figure out this whole OTT relationship for a while in terms of, not wanting to be a dumb pipe. Clearly AT&T and Verizon have taken that to the point of acquisitions that are very content and digital media focused. T-Mobile just this past week announced an arrangement with Netflix, where I think, they're sort of taking a very different non-acquisition approach to providing content and getting their network to be used, and using it as a way to attract customers. So thoughts, this is something they're really trying to figure out.
Yeah, it's clear that given the historical build and investment in BSS and OSS and the massive desire to be more than a commoditized way to move bits through the air, that the carriers must do something to have a greater role and functionality, not only in the marketplace, but in the lives of their customers, whether you call it 4G or connected intelligence or whatever. There's been massive investment in plant infrastructure, massive investment in almost every single other modality in which a carrier attempts to communicate with the subscriber. Stores have been reinvented, portals and websites have been reinvented, CRM systems have been powered and reinvented, but for years the device really hasn't. They've been beholden upon, to the most extent, beholden upon the OS and the OEMs to kind of drive what that looks like. That is in no way judging or advocating or editorializing on the other strategies, which include the content strategy, as you mentioned, as well as the data strategy, right? Working cross carrier to create a formidable data alternative to Facebook. All of those are relevant to carriers seeking to take that big step forward. Our research and our position is that don't forget about the thing that you and only you have the clout to actually experiment and design. And the second point I would make is that window is closing. I don't want to say shutting, but it's getting smaller, because the research that we've spoken about, and I've spoken about the first screen, but you can look at the OEMs and what OEMs, even in the next version of Apple and iOS, they're changing the way that notifications and the lock screen work together. You've seen over the years, KitKat to Licorice, they're all changing and trying to go after that same solution. You can look at what's happening with the OEMs like Samsung, going from My Magazine to Briefing to now Bixby, right? Trying to create experiential shortcuts to better deliver an experience, to remake that experience for their subscribers. So right now, the carriers are in the best position to leverage a device-centric strategy because they have clout over the OEMs, they have massive distribution, they literally inform what's on the device when it gets shipped. So that opportunity is there. Once one of the other partners, the OS or the OEMs, really get fully entrenched with their solution, the leverage that a carrier may have is certainly going to wane. Whether it goes away is TBD, but the time is really now for carriers to look at a device-centric strategy and see what the right next step might be, whether it's a Mobile Posse or someone else.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much for the time and your perspective on this, Greg.
I appreciate it, Kelly. Thanks for
inviting me. Yeah, thanks so much.
All right, take care.
Now for something completely different. I was recently at Smart Cities DC, which was interesting because of the difference in perspective at a show that is heavily populated by people who work in cities and in government, sort of trying to figure out how to make smart cities work for their citizens. More people-centric, I would say, sort of than technology-centric, which I think is happens at a lot of sort of more industry focused events. So for some global insights on smart city deployments and trends, I spoke with Louis Alban Betard-Dupree, who is VP of North American Sales for ConnecThings. Let's take a listen.
This is Kelly Hill, technology reporter for RCR Wireless News. I'm here with Louis from ConnecThings, Betard-Dupree.
Exactly.
And you are VP of Sales, yes?
Exactly.
Wonderful. Tell us a little bit about your company and what you do.
Okay, ConnecThings is a tech company working in the urban space. We connect the physical and the digital side of a city, trying to make the city mobile apps more intelligent, trying to help citizens on their when they're looking for information about mobility, about tourism, trying to make better connected space, better service-oriented mobile services to the citizens. And bridge the gap in the future about with the different mobility application arriving on the market. Try to make the city able to understand and anticipate people's needs.
Okay. And that's primarily NFC and beacon technology based, is that correct?
Yeah, we're kind of technology agnostic. We're working with a big range of technology, but the latest technology with whom we feel that there's a lot of opportunity are the one that helps geolocalization services.
Yes.
So the Bluetooth is an amazing technology that we're piloting with a lot of different cities at a city scale or more at a neighborhood scale, for example in New York. Where we will deploy beacons in Long Island City and Rockaways, as well as Grand Central area, trying to better promote information in one click. So wherever you are, if you're in the ferry dock, you will access the ferry schedule in one click. If you're in a shop, you will access information about the shop in one click. So really trying to convert a kind of dull space into a more interactive space where information is easily accessible for the citizens.
And we should mention that we're here at DC Smart Cities Week, and I'm wondering if you can, so you mentioned one example there of the New York City area. Can you tell us about any other projects that you folks have out in the field?
Yes, we have an amazing project going on with Cap Metro and in the city of Austin, which objective is to really link the transit space to a lot of different options of mobility and apps that people are using. So we will of course promote the bus schedule in one click when to riders arriving or waiting at the bus stop. But we want it to be open so that any mobile apps providing a mobility solution can connect. So we will have a wayfinding application for blind people using the connected space to better provide information to the users, so able to detect and say, hey, your next bus is in 3 minutes, so you're not here waiting without knowing when the next bus is coming. And we're contacting a lot of different partners, maybe bike sharing, car sharing. So whenever the bus is late or there's a problem, a lot of traffic, we can propose another solution to the users, whether because they're arriving at the bus, they're getting down and we propose a last mile option, or because the bus is late, we provide and tell them, hey, there's a bike available 2 minutes away, so you don't need to stay here and wait for your bus.
Huh. Interesting. Okay. So tell us about some of the trends that you see in this space, particularly, in that smart city context and what you see happening.
So I was saying one of the big trends that we can see in the smart city field is the arriving of IoT technologies. Lots of sensors around the city, able to better listen to the city. Whether capturing data about traffic, about pollution, being able to tell the city in real time what's happening, how far the car in that street, if there's a parking spot available. So it's a lot about gathering a huge amount of data and then trying to analyze it. So this is one of the big trends where ConnecThings is kind of fitting in the part of how can IoT help us better engage in real time with our citizens. And then you have another big trend, which is the mobility. It's kind of under revolution. We're here in Washington, and Washington already has a car sharing project going on with Car2Go, and they launch another dockless bike sharing system with private actors, which is kind of a first in America. So it's very exciting to see what Washington, how it will end up in Washington. But you see that the mobility sharing is booming, trying to propose more and more options to the riders to make better commute or better move around the city. This morning was a presentation about the automated autonomous vehicle.
Yes.
Very exciting also to see what's happening, understanding that it's way closer than we think. And it's just about laws to be adapted so that the autonomous vehicle can arrive on the market. So it's we are in a very exciting moment regarding smart city with the mobility.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time and your perspective.
Cindy.
All right.
Thank you, Cindy.
And one final Smart Cities DC interview, this one with Austin Ash of Current by GE, which has partnered with Intel and AT&T to create an all-in-one smart light pole, which they had on display there at the show. Kind of neat to see. So it kind of has the whole shebang: sensors, LED lighting, cameras, wireless connectivity, with the idea that this can really be the basis of a platform approach for a host of smart city applications and use cases, rather than the siloed single-use cases that are emerging in early deployments. So let's take a look at that interview.
This is Kelly Hill, technology reporter for RCR Wireless News. I'm here today with Austin Ash of GE, of Connect by GE. Is that correct?
It's Current, powered by GE.
Okay, let me start over then.
That's all right.
This is Kelly Hill, technology reporter with RCR Wireless News. I'm here today with Austin Ash of Current by GE, and he's going to give us a few takeaways from his talk here at Smart Cities Week DC.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. We had a very interesting discussion this morning. Lots of dialogue around Smart Cities 2.0, which is an evolving movement to really unlock the potential of smart city through software and big data applications. We're doing this through deploying what we call our City IQ product onto streetlights. So cities and utilities own some of the most valuable real estate in their city, and by giving them what's equivalent to a smartphone and putting that on their pole, we're actually able to unlock the entire smart city potential and give them a scalable, reliable solution that is very efficient and low cost and very, very easy to scale.
Now, we should mention that you guys are doing this in partnership with AT&T, yes?
Absolutely. AT&T and Intel. So we have Intel powered. Intel chips are powering the City IQ platform. AT&T is both our LTE 4G connectivity backhaul, as well as our commercial transaction partner.
Okay, great. And so, I think one of the things that we're seeing today is a lot of talk about trends, a lot of talk about, everything from connected vehicles to, how to make the best use of sensor data in cities. What trends are you guys seeing, and what, I don't know if you're hearing anything in terms of, what cities are trying to address.
Yeah. Cities have an extraordinary challenge in front of them. They have to address a growing population with fewer and fewer resources. And the only way they know how to do this today is with point source solutions. And it's things around parking efficiency, transportation, autonomous cars, public safety, economic development, and the need for them to continue to deliver those capabilities for both an operations perspective and a citizen perspective is accelerating. And so what we see is an opportunity to give them a flexible platform that allows them to address all of those needs. Imagine having something like an app store where you could just literally go and download a gunshot detection app or a pedestrian safety app or a smart parking app. You can do that with this solution that AT&T and GE have brought to market. And so by accelerating the deployment of these technologies, we're actually enabling cities to become smarter, faster, and in a way that's not really been cost effective to them in the past. So we're giving them a really interesting opportunity.
And I think it's interesting that you say this platform approach as opposed to, I'm going to go figure out, a gunshot detection solution, or I'm going to go figure out, a smart meter or a smart lighting solution. And piece by piece, which I think has been some of what we've seen in early development, as opposed to sort of this platform approach.
Yeah, the thing about a platform is that you don't necessarily have to solve 100% of every single one of your challenges. If you were to do that, you would be spending months and months through procurement processes, through technology evaluations, through pilots. And so by having the platform, a city can test a use case with an application in about 2 weeks. They can evolve it from there, or they can start over from scratch. They don't have to buy another piece of hardware. They don't have to get another license. They don't have to figure out the connectivity. They don't have to do another RFP. They can play with this It's extremely flexible to allow them to iterate and identify the things that they want to actually go deeper down. And what's even more interesting about the platform approach is that with an ecosystem of application providers that are already out there, these application providers are leveraging this sensor data to help drive some interesting outcomes and benefits. But the cities are also opening this data up to the broader community, like high school students and universities and entrepreneurs and incubators, software incubators that are building solutions. The cities are actually challenging them to come up with some ideas to help them build the apps. And so with a platform approach, you can easily navigate the landscape of finding the solution you want and acquire it from a professional or even from a student.
Oh, interesting stuff. What's something that you've seen here today at the show so far that you've thought was interesting, or sort of indicative of the state of smart cities at this point?
I think what's really interesting is the notion of IoT and smart cities has always kind of been an idea, but now it's coming to life. And it's incredible how many people are thinking about IoT from an infrastructure perspective. Because with IoT, we often think about watches and phones and mobile devices. But IoT is for cities to unlock the true potential. It's really an infrastructure play, and that's one of the more interesting things that have been clarified by the competition that's out here, the other vendors, as well as the city and the city speakers and the congressmen and senator folks that came earlier and talked about their initiative to fund this type of infrastructure over time. In fact, there was a bill announced on Monday for $220 million per year for specifically smart city infrastructure.
Wow. Okay. Great. Well, Austin, thank you so much for your time.
That's it for this week. Thanks for joining me for Carrier Wrap. See you next time.